It's the dreaded phrase that no athlete wants to hear even once in his or her career: choke. It's also one of the trickiest to explain. How can an athlete who has worked tirelessly for so long achieve the pinnacle of his field suddenly falter in the clutch? According to psychologists, air channels constrict at pressure periods for a variety of causes. It could be related to a fear of failing, or a failure to meet expectations, or misguided ambition to be flawless when simply being decent is sufficient. Whatever the case may be, even the best professional basketball players, several of whom which appear on this list of the most spectacular chokes in NBA postseason history, succumb to it. Up first, we have any Golden State Warriors player. Were Warriors teammates responsible for their apathetic reaction to Suns rookie Ricky Sobers following his first period assault on team captain Rick Barry? Was it Barry's attempt to engage them in the third quarter rather than to take over the game? Or was the outcome predetermined months ago when experienced floor leader Butch Beard was traded because the general manager didn't like his wife? When we questioned Coach Al Attles for an explanation, all he said was, "If I told you, I'd have to kill you." Up next, we have J.R. Smith on the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers had a little chance of winning this series, but if Smith hadn't dribbled out the final 5 seconds of the tied game after his offensive rebound off of a missed free throw, they may have actually won the game. "I thought we were ahead," the 31-year-old veteran explained later. "We believe that if the game hadn't been nationally aired, enraged teammate LeBron James, with 51 points on the night, would have done major harm. From the start, he was awful. 10 points on 3 of 10 shooting and a game-low -22 rating." Up next, we have Darryl Dawkins on the Philadelphia 76ers. The Trailblazers were exactly where the Sixers wanted them to be, or so it seemed. Then, late in a Game 2 triumph, Dawkins got embroiled in an ugly confrontation and stormed off in a fury, saying that his teammates didn't even have his back. Mind you, this came after a 107-89 victory. Worse, the center fired a roundhouse that injured teammate Doug Collins above the right eye. Collins was never the same after that, and neither was a disjointed team that failed to win another game. Up next, we have Miami Heat's LeBron James. Only a few months ago, King James said that he would join the Miami Heat in order to win not 5, not 6, not 7 league championships. We could have been duped. Bron was either poor, indifferent, or both in all 4 final round losses in his Heat debut. He was notably bad in the pivotal 86-83 loss that brought the Mavericks back in the series, scoring just 8 points on 11 field goal tries and committing 4 turnovers in 45 minutes. Up next, we have Hale Greer of the 76ers. Celtics power forward, if John Havlicek hadn't saved Bill Russell's butt and the Celtics dynasty, he would have been the lowercase GOAT. After Russell threw an inbounds pass that hit a guide wire and resulted in a turnover, for which Celtics supporter Bill Simmons blamed Wilt Chamberlain, Greer short-armed the inbounds pass, which Havlicek picked off to win a 110-109 victory. But shouldn't Coach Dolph Schayes's finest passing big have initiated the play near the baseline? That would have been center Johnny Kerr, who was 7 inches taller than Greer and couldn't have done any worse. Up next, we have the Orlando Magic's Nick Anderson. Anderson was a solid two-way player in his heyday, and he should be recognized as such. Instead, he's known as Nick the Brick, the man who managed to miss 4 free throws in 0.6 seconds to set the tone for the championship round. Some may argue that his entry should be placed higher on the list. But we believe that Hakeem Olajuwon and Clutch City will not be denied. One more free shot would have effectively ended the game and prevented a sweep, but not much else. Dennis Johnson of the Seattle Supersonics is ranked 7th. Johnson failed to connect any of his 14 field goal attempts in a 105-99 defeat, the worst over in NBA Finals history. DJ was equally effective and only went 4 for 16 in a road loss. So why did Coach Lenny Wilkins let the 23-year-old struggle for 38 minutes on a day when veteran sidekick downtown Freddie Brown scored 21 points in just 31 minutes? Up next, we have Mel Counts of the Los Angeles Lakers. Midway through the fourth quarter, the Lakers trailed by 7 points, but they had momentum and a sellout crowd on their side. Then, Princeton flunky Bill Van Breda-Kolff made the single stupidest postseason decision in history. He benched Wilt Chamberlain and replaced him with Counts. What? Even at 32 with 5 fouls and a sprained right knee, the Big Dipper was better than Counts and almost every other center. On his worst day, too. Except that notoriously obstinate VBK was so determined to prove of his greatness that he left the large guy to simmer on the bench for the duration of the game. Counts missed 9 of 13 field goal attempts, and the creaky old Celtics won another league title, and VBK was renowned as the coach who couldn't win with Wilt, Elgin Baylor, and Jerry West. Up next, we have the New York Knicks' John Starks. It was the worst thing that could have happened to Starks and his club when he erupted for 16 points in the fourth quarter of a Game 6 loss. Michael Jordan wanted Tobe to have the bizarre notion that he could win a title. In Game 7, the loose cannon missed 9 of 10 fourth quarter field goal attempts and 16 of 18 overall, including an 0 for 11 from behind the arc. His final shot in the 90-84 loss hit nothing but air, and the perfect ending to an otherwise mediocre outing. Up next, we have Isaiah Thomas of the Detroit Pistons. They're gonna suffocate. Those were the prophetic remarks of Celtics center Robert Parrish after the Bad Boys tied the series with a 26-point TKO in Game 4. With a 107-106 advantage with 5 seconds remaining in the fourth quarter, Thomas fired an inbound pass that Larry Bird intercepted before feeding Dennis Johnson for a layup that turned the game around. Of course, if the visitors had called a timeout beforehand, the ball would have been inbounded near the midcourt rather than at their own end, and this all-time joke job would have not occurred. It thwarted what could have been the first leg of the Pistons' historic four-peat. Up next, we have Andy Phillip of the Fort Wayne Pistons. The first use of the 24-second shot clock resulted in the most contentious and largely forgotten ending in NBA Finals history. With the score deadlocked and 16 seconds left on the clock, Fort Wayne Pistons star George Yardley was penalized for a palming violation. Yes, kids, there was a time when the NBA strictly enforced all rules for all players. A Frankie Bryan foul gave the Nets a 92-91 advantage. Then, with 3 seconds remaining, Phillip was stripped of the ball. Yardley later claimed that the future Hall of Famer was on the take, an allegation that was never investigated. And it's difficult to discern if this was a fix or a choke, so let's call it both. A forgery. Draymond Green of the Golden State Warriors is ranked second. This epic choke had several co-conspirators, but we chose Green because he toppled the first huge domino. The live wire had reached its limit for fouls, so he had been on his best behavior at all times. Instead, with his team leading by 10 points in a 109-97 victory, he let LeBron James dupe him into a one-game suspension. Poof, the Dubs then blew a 3-1 series lead, transforming themselves from a historic 73-9 team to an all-time underachiever. Up next and finally, we have Los Angeles Lakers' Frank Selby. The Celtics dynasty was peppered with lucky breaks, but here's the most important of them all. After scoring 4 points in the final minute of regulation to tie the game at 100s, Selby short-armed his favorite shot, opening a 12-foot jumper near the left wing. The rest is history. At most, a Lakers triumph would have supplied the momentum for their own dynasty. At the very least, the Celtics' 4-year title streak has ended, and the Lakers get the gorilla off their backs. The careers of Jerry West and Elgin Baylor are enhanced, and a man called Frank Selby becomes a legend for all time. Next, we have Scottie Pippen with the Chicago Bulls. We were on the court when Pippen scored 2 points of 1 for 10 shooting and grabbed 4 rebounds in what amounted to Game 7 of the NBA Finals, which he attributed to a migraine headache and a double vision. Perhaps he was referring to Dennis Rodman and Bill Laimbeer. What we don't get is why, if he was that handicapped, Coach Phil Jackson would have played him for 42 minutes. You'd be correct if you'd assume that Michael Jordan is still irritated over this. Before the playoffs started, the word was out about that the Supersonics would slow down and take care of the ball, and they'd be easy to pick. Outside of Colorado, hardly one predicted that the league's youngest squad would pull it off. Nobody expected the Sonics to be the first and only 63-win team to be eliminated in the first round. Kemp and Payton deserved a lot of the responsibility as the purported team leaders. Nonetheless, there were plenty to go around on a team that scored 9 points in 2 overtimes in the final 2 games. Look at Dikembe Mutombo. He just stopped another shot. Up next, we have Dirk Nowitzki of the Dallas Mavericks. Before ultimately breaking through 4 years later, thank you LeBron James, Nowitzki had the reputation of a choker. This is where it all started in its earnest. Following a stellar regular season, Dirty and a 67-15 team were knocked out in round 1 by a 1-8 upset. He bricked all 6 of his 3-Bs and 11 of his 13 field goal attempts overall in the final game, which he apparently attempted to punch a wall. According to rumors, he also missed that. In the postseason, the beard was off by more than a whisker, which he attributed to an intense workload. Exhibit A is attached. With Spurs star Kawhi Leonard unavailable in overtime of the important 5th game, the putative most valuable player candidate replied with 3 missed jumpers and as many turnovers in a 107-110 loss. Then, in the finale, he put up a 10.6 turnover performance in a 39-point loss at home. We might have gone with Game 7 of the 2017 Conference Finals, or we might have gone with the Game 7 of the 2017 Conference Finals when he provided 10 of his team's 27 consecutive three-pointers. Up next, we have Kobe Bryant and the Los Angeles Lakers' other players. This wasn't the colossal upset that some claim it was, but there were no explanations for the Lake Show to score 77, 95, 68, 80, and 87 points over the course of 5 games. Begin with Bryant's 34% field goal percentage on nearly 23 field goal attempts per game, but he didn't stop there. Fossil's Karl Malone and Gary Payton resembled Madame Tussauds wax sculptures. Oh, and wasn't it supposed to be Coach Phil Jackson's job to have all the answers? Or at least some of the responses? Well guys, thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. Be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to Tip Top Sports, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a video. I'll see you guys next time and have a great day. Peace.